Hello and welcome to our Chapter Books and Early Readers webinar. I'm Maggie Reagan, Senior Editor, Books for Youth at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Also, Booklist now offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar mentioned above. From there, you can select Show or Hide Subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Subtitle Settings. Last but not least, links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on this screen into your web browser. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Molly Fletcher from Albert Whitman, Bronte Germain, Sales Coordinator at Second Story Press, Brooke Knight from Honest History, Terrell from Once Upon a Dance, and Danielle Presley, Marketing Assistant at Penguin Young Readers. First up is Molly Fletcher. Molly is a marketing professional with 5 years of experience in publishing. She joined Albert Whitman mid-pandemic and specializes in content strategy and email marketing. She's currently reading The Star-Touched Queen by Roshani Chokshi. She loves sloths and is in a committed relationship with the Oxford comma. Molly, take it away.
Thank you so much, Maggie. I appreciate it. I am so happy to be here and with the opportunity to share some of Albert Whitman's early readers and chapter books with you today, including a brand new series launching this coming spring. So let's get started. Next slide, please. From the very beginning, Albert Whitman and Company has been interested in sort of teaching kids on the sly. If you're not familiar with us, we are the proud home of the Boxcar Children. The series creator, Gertrude Chandler Warner, was an educator herself. So she developed her stories to work as classroom readers, ones that students actually wanted to read. So instead of something like, see Jane run, run Jane run, Warner dreamed up 4 orphans who go on adventures and model curiosity, resourcefulness, and compassion along the way. Building on that tradition, we've made it our mission to help children become world thinkers through inclusive, relevant, and trusted stories. Next slide, please. Time to Read is the name of our early reader program, which we have broken into 3 levels, as you'll see here. Level 1 is beginning to read. Level 2, reading with help. And level 3, reading independently. In level 1, we have the Animal Time series, which features the wacky antics of a group of critters, and Park Here, a fun play on words, and very popular with kids who like things that go. I know I have a few of those in my family. I'd like to call special attention to level 2. We've adapted some of the most popular stories from the original Boxcar series for young readers, and you'll find all of those here in level 2. This fall, we're debuting Time to Read editions of Schoolhouse Mystery and The Pizza Mystery, because who doesn't love pizza? That one's a great seller for us. And of course, I simply have to mention Bat and Sloth there on the left, which follow the adventures of a fruit bat and a 2-toed sloth, which happens to be my favorite type of sloth. And wrapping up with level 3, we have The Kid and the Chameleon, which explores themes of friendship and compromise, and Detective Paw of the Law, which, a lot like Boxcar Children, lets readers practice their sleuthing skills. Next slide. The Wish Library is one of our newer chapter book series. The first 3 books are available now, with the 4th and final book arriving next spring. In this light fantasy series, best friends Raven and Luca meet a mysterious librarian who lets them check out wishes instead of books. When their wishes are granted, they find out that a little bit of magic can cause a lot of trouble, and that in the end, they had the power to face their challenges all along. Friendship is at the core of each story in the series, with additional SEL concepts woven throughout. And each book is generously illustrated, so it's perfect for new chapter book readers. Next slide. The Tinkerers is the brand new chapter book series I mentioned earlier, so you can consider this a special sneak peek. In this series, Roscoe the raccoon is just fine living and tinkering on his own in an abandoned junkyard. Then a disaster drives a badger, a bear, and a bird to his gate, looking for a new home. Though Roscoe is skeptical at first, he discovers that he can create more with others than he ever could on his own, and that together the Tinkerers can build an environment that's better for everyone. We will be launching the series with 2 books, Forces of Nature and Opposites Attract. Next slide. Next up is Lola Jones, which is a great choice for all the bookworms out there. Lola is an independent 3rd grader who loves to read. In the pages of her favorite books, she finds inspiration that helps her solve problems at school and at home, from dress codes and fair play to convincing her mom to get a dog. In this series, you can expect a feisty heroine with a mind of her own. It features a 1-parent, multi-generational family, and it focuses on standing up for what you believe in. This series encourages kids to make the world a brighter place for everyone. Next slide. A Dog's Day comes to us from Catherine Steyer, who also wrote If I Were President. These are 6 action-packed, well-researched chapter books about working dogs, told from the dog's point of view. Check out the back of each book for more information on working dog breeds and jobs. Jobs explored in this series include livestock guardian, avalanche rescue, guide, showbiz, search and rescue, and detection. If you're not really sure where to start, I recommend checking out I Am Jack's Protector of the Ranch, which earned a starred review from Kirkus, or my personal favorite in the series, I Am Sky, Finder of the Lost. We have also created a series educator guide that you can download for free on our website. Next slide. Zapato Power follows the adventures of Freddie Ramos, a city kid with a big heart and a special pair of sneakers. One day, Freddie comes home from school and finds a strange box just for him. What's inside? Zapato Power, shoes that change Freddie's life by giving him super speed. But what will he do with his new skills? Join a relatable kid turned hero as he helps his community and learns about his family, his friends, and himself along the way. You can expect lots of SEL connections in this series, and it's got fun black and white cartoon illustrations throughout, ideal for readers transitioning to chapter books. There are currently 11 books in the series. As you can see, we had trouble getting them all on one slide, but we're still going strong with book 12 coming next spring. Next slide. Since I opened with the Aldens, it's only fair that I close with them, this time with a mini series called Creatures of Legend. In these 4 books, the Boxcar Children investigate mythical creatures around the world, but they don't do it alone. Henry, Jesse, Violet, and Benny join paleontologist Dr. Iris Perez as she looks into reported sightings of Bigfoot, elves, mermaids, and monsters. Longtime fans of the Boxcar Children will find the same wholesome characters and themes they love from the original series, plus some new friends, locations, and experiences. Next slide. Thank you so much for taking the time today to hear about the latest and greatest from Albert Whitman. If you'd like to know more about any of the titles I talked about today, please reach out to me. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Molly. Next up is Bronte Germain. Bronte joined Second Story Press in 2020 after 3 years of working as a sales rep. After spending so much time on the road selling to indie bookstores, libraries, and specialty accounts, she was happy to settle down at Second Story and work on the books that would end up on those shelves. She's overjoyed to be putting in more diverse feminist books into the hands of readers. Welcome, Bronte. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Maggie. Hi, everyone. My name is Bronte. I'm the sales coordinator at Second Story Press. I'm so pleased to be here with you today. Before I start, please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at the email that's on this slide. And before I tell you about our books, I do want to acknowledge the ancestral lands on which I'm working and living. I'm speaking to you from Toronto, Ontario. We are situated in the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, the Anishinaabe, Métis, and the Mississaugas of the New Credit. And Second Story has been very privileged to work with many Indigenous authors, illustrators, editors, and other collaborators. And we are always hoping that the books that we produce can in some way contribute to the reconciliation process in both Canada and in the United States. Second Story, if you don't know us, we're distributed by Orca Book Publishers in the US, and we've been producing feminist-inspired books for over 30 years. I picked the books today to hopefully give you a good idea of what we strive for, which is books that celebrate diversity, empowerment, and social justice. I'm going to touch on a couple of longer form picture books that we have, as well as some younger skewing middle grade that's really good for readers who are venturing into chapter books or readers with a higher interest level, but a lower reading level. Next. So first up is The Doll by Nyang Tran Davies, illustrated by Ravi Put. This is a hardcover picture book. It came out in April of this year. And although it's a picture book, we aged it 5 to 9 due to the content and the language. Nyang writes in a beautiful poetic style, so the language is a little more mature and it's appropriate for someone who's venturing into a more sophisticated level of reading, but obviously maintains the comfort of an illustrated book. The Doll has gotten great reviews thus far, and Young's previous book, which you see in the corner of the slide here, 10 cents a pound, also did very well. And it solidified her reputation as a children's author who writes very beautifully about emotional storylines, often revolving around refugees and migrants, and a lot about kindness and compassion. Next. In The Doll, Nyang tells her own story of coming over to Canada from Vietnam as a young refugee and receiving a doll from a Canadian family. So the story that we see in The Doll is tagged as fiction, but really it's semi or almost more than semi-autobiographical. Next. Years down the line, Nyang became a doctor. She established the Children of Vietnam Benevolent Foundation. She spoke at the UN's International Organization on Migration in Geneva, did some truly incredible things. And then she got to a point in her life where she was able to pay forward the kindness that she had received by gifting a doll to some Syrian refugees who arrived in Canada. And that's the journey that the book's protagonist goes on as well. Next. This message of a kind of full circle of kindness is very simple, but it's very strong. And the beautiful illustrations by Ravi bring it all together and bring it to life. And just as an interesting side note, the doll that Nyang received as a young girl is currently part of a traveling museum exhibit on immigration in Canada. Next. The next ones I'm going to talk to you about are one of our favorite series, The Mighty Muskrats Mysteries by Cree author Michael Hutchinson. The first book, the first two on the slide, these here are the first two in the series. The Case of Wendy Lake was one of the winners of our 2018 Indigenous Writing Contest, and this series has only grown since then. It's known as like an Indigenous Hardy Boys kind of series, really fun and intriguing mysteries, four cousins who solve those mysteries and are continuously demonstrating the strength of their family and their community bonds, making for really feel-good reads with lots of momentum. But the books don't shy away from more serious issues such as environmentalism, protest, activism, and in very relevant topic, the legacies of residential schools, as well as the 60s Scoop, which was a Canadian program that separated thousands of children, Indigenous children, against their will from their families. And next. The one to focus on today is the Case of the Brickell Bundle, which is the third in the series and came out in April of 2021. In this book, a cultural gathering is disrupted by the theft of the memory bundle. So the mystery is very entertaining, and as a sort of added bonus, non-Indigenous kids will learn elements of Cree culture and Cree history in a very non-didactic way. It's a great series. We absolutely love it. It's great for reluctant readers. It's great for bookworms. And it's a fantastic example of a diverse book that does not center around trauma, but simply brings representation of, in this case, Indigenous cultures and Indigenous people, specifically Cree, into the mainstream. Next. Now we're going to move on to some fall 2021 titles. Unstoppable Women with Disabilities is a super lively and informative book about 10 different women, all with disabilities, who have achieved incredible things. It was written by Helen Wolf, who has been a teacher and writer for many decades and who has a lifelong physical disability. The vivid illustrations are by Karen Patkow, who also has a lifelong disability and walks with a prosthetic leg. As you will see as we go through, there's quite a bit of text in each profile, and that coupled with Helen's writing voice, which is frank and very informative, but overall hopeful, make it perfect for a reader who is moving from simpler picture books to chapter books. Helen wanted to write a book that was positive, but didn't gloss over the struggles that women with disabilities face in trying to break through in any given field. As such, the book does not shy away from acknowledging the challenges faced by the women profiled, but the takeaway is positive, and it's of the incredible things that these women have achieved. The women profiled are from around the world and are from a wide variety of disciplines, from music to science to stand-up comedy. They also have a wide variety of disabilities, both physical and mental, some born with them and some became disabled later in their lives. Next. The American women profiled include a lawyer, an architect, a neurosurgeon, and a comedian. And the best known name in the whole book is Greta Thunberg, but most of these women fall into the people you should know about category, which is great for younger kids to get to know some fantastic women. And the book asks lots of questions of its readers and sparks discussion and thought, but ultimately leaves them informed and inspired. Next. Okay, this is my personal favorite of our fall titles. The author of this one, Suzanne Mead, is a teacher who lives in Hamilton, Ontario with her wife, and who was inspired to write this when she started researching her family history. It's technically a middle grade read, but due to the writing style and the content, I think it's great for a young reader who's venturing into chapter books, or as I mentioned right at the beginning, like a high-low situation, high interest, lower reading level. I will try not to, go on too much about how much I love this book, but it's really wonderful. It's based on a little known piece of Canadian history. It's essentially about a young girl who lives in rural Newfoundland in 1929 when an earthquake and subsequently a tsunami strike her fishing village, and half the town is washed out to sea, leaving injuries, just destruction and chaos generally. It's got action, it's got drama, natural disaster, which kids love to read about, but it is also a very realistic and touching portrayal of a young girl. And as the Kirkus starred review pointed out, it is truly very, very gripping. We have included some photos from the real event in the back of the book to bring it home. But the writing is quite simple and straightforward. It's not overly complicated, which helps in terms of making it a good book for an early chapter reader. And the feelings of being a young girl in a big family really come through, as do the precious connections that exist in a close-knit, remote community. So great high interest title, great for reluctant readers, and great for more avid readers. Next. This is my last title. This is CL in All Directions. So this is the sequel to CL #1, which you see on the slide there. They were both written by author Sophie Labelle. Sophie is a trans writer and cartoonist, best known for her animated series Assigned Male. She has a very large, very loyal, and highly engaged social media following. So her author profile and personality really does help sell this series. And it has received praise for being a very cheerful and well-rounded portrait of a young, non-binary kid. In CL in All Directions, CL and their friends are doing things like working with their school's LGBTQ alliance, creating YouTube videos, working on a science project. So both of the books are full of friendship. There's a bit of romance, and there's kind of just good, clean fun. So again, great for reluctant readers, great for slightly older readers with a slightly younger reading level, and overall, a really wonderful way to make sure that non-binary and trans kids have representations on your shelves in all types of narratives. So we can move to the next slide, which is just to thank you. Thank you guys all for listening in. And as I said at the beginning, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out or throw them in the Q&A, which we see after the fact. And I hope that you guys check out some of these books. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Bronte. Next up, we have Brooke Knight. Brooke is the co-founder of Honest History and leads the editorial team for the company's books and self-titled magazine. California-born, Brooke discovered a passion for history and education at an early age, leading her to develop the idea for Honest History and create her own dream job. Brooke lives in Los Angeles and enjoys researching new topics for the company's publications and spending time with her creative team. Thank you so much for joining us, Brooke.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. All right, perfect. So I'm so excited to be sharing the new series that we just launched, History Is, and give you all a little bit of taste what it's about. Just a little bit more about our company. We launched Honest History back in 2018, and really the mission of the company has always been to get kids excited about history to the point where they then go out into the world and create history for themselves. And as we've grown over the years, we have decided to launch this new book series, which is History Is Blank. And so I'm really excited to introduce the first two titles within that series. So the first one is History is Delicious, and it's written by Joshua Lurie and drawn by Laura Foy. And this book really is a combination of so many things. It introduces history in a way that kids don't really even know that they're learning about history and culture. It's very food focused and talks about food from different countries and different cultures, and how food, history, and culture are often so intertwined that when you're learning about one, you're oftentimes learning about all three things. So the author, Joshua Lurie, is a food journalist who lives in LA and founded Food GPS back in 2005. And Josh wrote this book really for himself as a kid. And he has said on many occasions that this is the book that he wished he had growing up. He lived in a New Jersey suburbs and would often go to Manhattan with his family. And that's where he would discover different types of cuisine from around the world. And that really is where his passion for food began. And so this book is really something that came directly from his heart and from his inner child. And he was so passionate, and you can really see that through his writing throughout the book. So as I mentioned earlier, the book is really a culmination of food, culture, and history. Each chapter focuses on a different part of the world. We have different sections that focus on the Americas, Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. And within each chapter, we focus on one specific country and give a very basic, almost introductory look at the history of that country. And then we focus more on the different types of foods that are found within that country. So for Korea, for example, we have different types of Korean barbecue meats. We talk about the different sides that go with that. And then with every chapter, we also include other must-try dishes. So for Korea, we have bibimbap and budae-jjigae, and we explain what that is, where you can find it. And it's kind of a really nice way for kids to be able to then have a reference guide so that when they go to a Korean restaurant, they can say, oh, I've learned about this, like this is the food that I want to order. And even as an adult, I have found this book to be extremely helpful, and it's definitely something I reference before I go to any fun restaurants here in LA myself. The book also has recipes from different celebrity chefs. So this one in particular is onigiri, written by Akira Yoshimura. And I have to say, I actually made this recipe myself with my 3-year-old just last week. And it was really fun because it was a great way to introduce different foods and cultures at a really young age. My 3-year-old made such a huge mess, but it was such a fun time to get to talk to him and explain that something like onigiri is eaten by kids in other cultures and that it's a staple in other parts of the world. The book is also filled with fun dining facts. So we have a spread on noodles around the world. We also talk about different spices that you can find around the world and what those spices are used for, the color, where those spices came from. And we also have a whole section on table settings around the world because many cultures don't eat with just a fork and a knife like we do here in the US. So we really, present a whole picture on what food is like from around the world. Our second book in the series is History is Inventive, which was drawn by Sophie Smith. And this book takes a look at human ingenuity and the inventors behind objects and technology that shaped the modern world. So this book was very heavily researched. We try to only use primary sources. And so you can really find that within each chapter, we focus on one particular invention or piece of technology. And oftentimes you're not going to find blank was invented by blank because we found that the story is so much more complicated. Most of the time there was not ever just one creator or inventor of an object or a piece of technology. And we really go through from the beginning and the conceptualization of an invention all the way through to what it is today. We also focus on different pioneering inventors throughout history. There are so many incredible people that have just been forgotten from history textbooks, unfortunately. So within this section, we really try to highlight people who made a huge impact, not just in their creations that they made, but just in their lives in general. Charles Drew is someone who I've personally come to really admire and try to emulate in my life, just because he was such an important person and was so powerful in his belief system and creating the blood bank. He ultimately saved millions of people's lives. And so we try to highlight him and many other incredible inventors within this section. And then we close off the book with some fun stuff. So here we have a little make your own Galileo's telescope activity with things that you can find around your home. Really, the purpose of these books is to get kids excited about history and present it in a way that is different than a standard textbook and get them excited to go out and want to create history for themselves and make themselves known within history. So thank you so much for letting me present. These books are for ages 8 to 14, and they will be distributed by Gibbs-Smith, and they will be available at $19.99 a piece. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brooke. Our next panelist today is Terrell from Once Upon a Dance. Once Upon a Dance is a mother-daughter duo. Ballerina Kenora scaled the ballet ladder all the way to professional. Her mother taught creative movement and ballet for decades and has breathed dance from every conceivable angle. She was honored to be recognized by her local city council for embodying the spirit of partnership and commitment to children in our community for her work with young dancers. For information about their catalog of movement-based book for kids, visit www.onceuponadance.com. Take it away, Terrell.
Thank you, Maggie. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm representing Once Upon a Dance, and we are in Seattle. Once Upon a Dance has the mission of connecting housebound kids, especially with movement, especially during the pandemic. And next slide, please. We intended to have, or we thought we would have 19 COVID-19 creations a few months back, but it looks like maybe we will keep releasing books into 2022 as well. Unfortunately, we have 2 main series and then a couple of related books. To start off, a little bit about us. Next slide, yep, thank you. So I often go by Teacher Terrell, and I taught dance for many years. I had a photography business that focused on kids. I have 2 kids, and I worked in early education as a family advocate and also with several different mentor programs. Next slide, please. My daughter, we named her Ballerina Kenora after the coronavirus. We wanted to make something beautiful from that. And she is fortunate enough to have a contract for the next season at Ballet Idaho, which is kind of a huge deal and a huge accomplishment. So I'm a very proud mama. It's really tough right now for all the artists. So she feels very grateful and lucky for that. Next slide. Grandma also gets involved, and she wrote Brielle's Birthday Ball, the original story, for my daughter when she was a little girl, when my daughter was a little girl, and she also edits for us. So this is a 3-generation powerhouse of women collaborating, and we're excited about that. Next slide. So we have 2 main series, and the first is Dancing Shapes, ballet and body awareness for the young dancer. And Dancing Shapes was the first book, and it won a couple different awards, a few awards actually. And each book is formatted similarly in that it goes through a little bit about Kenora's pre-professional journey, and she takes them on a warm-up through a little mini ballet lesson and then an exploration of shape and detail. Next slide, please. And these are a few pictures within the book. On the left, you'll see what is called a grand plie in ballet. And we like to talk about how those shapes relate to all kinds of different things. So right below it, you see a frog, and it's actually the same technical turned out and such. So it's just a really fun book and takes readers through a lot of different positions and things like that. Next slide. So all of the books in the series have a similar format of the mini biography and the warm-up and a little bit of ballet with different movements for each book, and then an exploration of the shape and the detail and what defines the shapes. In More Dancing Shapes, we focus a lot on the connection with the floor and having readers create their own unique individual shapes. And dancing, in the Nutcracker Dancing Shapes, we go through the 25 different roles that Ballerina Kenora had with 4 different professional performances and then also 1 school. And it also talks about the mishaps and things that can go wrong. So readers learn not to take themselves too seriously, and these things that happen that seemed really horrible at the time, we all kind of laugh at now, and life moves on. Also a lot about storytelling in that book and the differences in the productions and how different those Nutcrackers really are. In Dancing Shapes with Attitude, we kind of continue on that try not to take yourself too seriously concept, and talk a lot about how having a really nice calm attitude has really helped her. And also just showing up for things and taking every opportunity has been really beneficial. And the next step in this series is Dancing Shapes with Cats, where we talk about taking on different personas and also using our feline friends as inspiration to create some new and interesting shapes. Next slide. And then we turn to a younger crowd with our Dance It Out creative movement stories for young movers. And there are 6 of these that are available now, a couple right behind it. We love just hearing about the kids really enjoying these. Moms, parents, dads even have given us a lot of positive feedback, and the reviewers, librarians. I don't get to talk about the books very much because we've been in lockdown, and some of the reviews have come in, have given me some different things to think about. And one was talking about how the readers will pick these books up over and over again. And I just thought back to myself when I was a little girl, weirdly kind of for the first time, and was like, oh my gosh, I would have memorized this book. This book would have been in tatters from me reading it, and my cat would have had to watch my dance performances. And this is me as a 10-year-old. And these books are mostly kind of aimed at the 4 to 7-year-olds and really meant to enjoy with a caregiver. But I would have had this in my room, and I would have made a total dance performance out of this. And I know my daughter would have really enjoyed these stories when she was little as well. So I'm really happy to be putting them out in the world and really creating the things that I wanted as a dance teacher and as a mom. So I want to tell you on the next slide, there's a couple other review quotes if you just want to scan those real quick. And I also want to show you a few pages from the books. So we approach each book as an independent dance performance ready for the imagination stage. And because of that, we decided that when you go to a dance performance, you don't want to see the same sets and the same choreography and the same backdrops and the same costumes. So we've really tried to make each book a little bit different with a little different feel. And there's a similar format, of course. We have the illustration on one page and then the text for the story, which you can read independently, or there's optional Canora text, which gives instructions for movement, and then also some photos accompanying that. Next slide, please. And just to tell you a little bit about a couple of the books, Princess Naomi Helps a Unicorn is about 2 sisters squabbling, and one storms off and she's like, I got to get out of here. So she goes to ride her horse, and they find a unicorn that needs help. She saves a baby unicorn and then forgets all about the squabble and can't wait to tell her sister. And just to kind of mention, on the bottom right, there's the 2 different leaps. And we like to have the movements that Canora does a little bit different than the story illustrations, just to embrace that variety of movement that exists. And we really encourage readers to bring their own spin or to even do things differently. So they really take ownership in the story and act it out as they would like. Next slide. In Joey Finds His Jump, there's a sad little kangaroo who's very friendly and very kind, but he can't find his jump. And he decides to go on a quest in search of it. And he comes to a stage full of dancers, and the dancers are they're hopping, they're doing all kinds of jumps, hopping and leaping over and going feet together and feet apart and jumping and spinning around at the same time. And something just clicks for Joey, and he starts jumping, first a little jump and then a bigger. And he finds a frog after that, and they have this mutual connection of jumping and become friends. It's very sweet, and that was our debut. We have Brielle's Birthday Ball, which is just was it all a dream adventure? And there's a dance party on the moon, and there's cupcakes, and it's a lot of fun. And there are some subtle life lessons as well. Danny, Denny, and the Dancing Dragon is about Big Brother Danny can't wait to tell little brother how to dance and teach him all the things that he knows. But he finds out that little brother can't even stand up. And he's like, why didn't anyone tell me about this? But little brother summons Cadessa, the dragon, and the dragon teaches him dances from faraway lands, and she creates fire breath pictures that he can recreate the shapes from, and they all have a good time. We have 5 books coming up fairly quickly here in the fall and end of summer. Balluna's Big Adventure in the Sky celebrates our uniqueness, and Mira Monkey's Magic Mirror Adventure is kind of a story of Mira at the carnival, and she's enjoying herself, and then fairy mischief comes into play. Danica's Dancing Day is about a little girl with a dancing heart and a dancing soul, and she makes a performance in her mind out of everything in her day, including her chores. We have Sidoni Squirrel, superhero, who has a little squirrel who actually has a superpower, and she's trying to get a sidekick. Freya and the Fantastic Flute is about 2 kids who need to tame some critters. They're zombies, bats, and ghosts in their aunt's attic. We also have Kenora Shapes. And just to show you real quick, these are actually cards that you cut out of the book to make a shape collection. So they're meant to be cut from the book, and we include activities for use using the collection of cards. And these were designed for PE teachers, for dance teachers, for homeschool families or regular families, whoever needs a quick activity for kids. We have a couple journals just for fun, some beautiful pictures in this one. The Dancing Shapes journal has quotes related to dance in it. We also have one more series coming up that we're developing for 2022. And all of our books, or most of our books, are available in hardcover, the Dancing Shapes series. And this is for ages kind of 6 to 9, comes in a hardcover and a little mini paperback there. And everything is available on Amazon. And we also have a local seller in Boise. And if you have questions, please reach out and I'll follow up. And otherwise, thank you so much for listening to our books. We're really excited. We can't wait to get them out in the world. And if you want to check our books out more, we are at www.onceuponadance.com and on Instagram at once_upon-a-dance, or on Facebook, Once Upon a Dance, Viral Dancing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Terrell. Our final panelist today will be Danielle Presley. Danielle is a marketing assistant on the school and library team at Penguin Young Readers. She's an avid tote bag collector and currently weighing the pros and cons of adopting a cat. Bring us home, Danielle.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle, and I have a few chapter books and early readers from this year, some that are already out and available, as well as some that will be coming out in the next few months. So to start us off, I'm going to go through some of the new titles that will be added to the She Persisted chapter book line. Ruby Bridges in August, Clara Limlick in September, Margaret Chase Smith in October, Maria Tallchief in November, and then in December, we have 2 coming out with Helen Keller and Oprah Winfrey. So if you're not aware of what the She Persisted chapter book series is, we signed up 13 talented award-winning children's writers to expand and provide more information about the women that were included in the She Persisted picture book line. So each writer chose a woman to write about that she felt connected to for one reason or another, and we're publishing 1 book per month. So we're super excited to have these 13 incredible women writing about 13 incredible women all of 2021. And so on this next slide, you can see some of the other titles that are already out in the series. With the left column, you'll see some of the figures that are written about, Harriet Tubman, Claudette Colvin, et cetera, with their authors in the right column. Okay, next. The JD chapter book series. So a lot of our self-esteem can be tied to our hair. So imagine the night before the first day of school and your mom gives you the worst haircut of your life. And that's what happens to JD. So he tries to hide it by wearing a hat and ducking behind other kids at school. But when the teasing gets bad, he takes his mom's clippers into his own hands. He tries them out on his younger brother first, of course. But when that goes well, he gives himself a haircut and it looks great. Soon he's got kids begging for his clippers services, so he opens up a shop in his bedroom. He's making money, enough to fill his candy jar and buy some new video games, and that's the start of his hair journey. The first 2 books are available now, and the 3rd book, The Hair Show Showdown, will be coming out this November. Next up is Jada Jones Skywatcher. This is the 5th book in this fun series about friendship and science. In Skywatcher, Jada does a science project and learns all about Dr. Mae Jemison, a former NASA astronaut and the first Black woman to travel to outer space. She even gets to pretend to be her for the presentation in front of her teacher, parents, and friends. But when Jada's research reminds her how accomplished her hero truly is, she suddenly feels like she's made a mistake. How can she portray someone who seems to have everything together while she feels like she's falling apart? And I don't know about you all, but I relate to that personally. And so then next up, we have the first 2 books in the Treasure Troop series by Edgar Award-winning winner Dory Helsted. So Marley knew that Mr. Summerling has as her like friendly neighbor living in the big house next door. Sure, he's walked around with a metal detector and talked about being a treasure hunter, but she didn't think much of it. But when news of Mr. Summerling's death arrives at her doorstep, Marley is brought into a treasure hunt of her own. In Mr. Summerling's will, he's left a treasure for Marley and two of her classmates, Isla and Sai. The catch is that they have to solve a series of riddles, puzzles, and clues to find its location. And not only that, they have to work together on that, which Marley's, not looking forward to. So can the 3 kids come together and crack the code? And the next slide. Dino Zombies. So with summer coming to a close and spooky season just around the corner, Dino Zombies is a perfect book to celebrate Halloween with real dinosaur zombies as they stomp and chomp through the streets on their quest for candy. In this rhyming story designed to engage early readers, charming characters combine with simple text, lively illustrations, and laugh out loud humor to help boost kids' confidence and create lifelong readers. And then next, we have the Astronaut Girl series. So all 4 of these books are available now to read. In this, meet 8-year-old Val, aka Astronaut Girl, and she loves space, science, and adventure. In Journey to the Moon, the first book in the series, she and her friend Wallace get an out-of-this-world opportunity when they blast off on a trip to outer space, though getting lost on the lunar adventure wasn't part of the plan. So from there, each book is one space adventure after another, from traveling to the sun, zigzagging through an asteroid belt, and even zooming off to Mars. And then next up, Peanut Butter and Crackers Fetch. So in Fetch, our pet trio, Peanut, Butter, and Crackers, are back, and this time they're off to Bartown Doggy School. Next slide, please. So sure, Crackers has a ton of questions about what happens at doggy school, but he's also excited about his first time. When he gets separated from Peanut, he quickly realizes that he has to fend for himself. And 5 minutes in, and he's already the new target of the pint-sized pack, which is the name of the bullies of the Little Dogs group. So with Peanut and Butter's help, all 3 will have to come together and get out of trouble. And this is part of our new graphic novel, like early readers section. And the next 2 titles are also part of that. So next up is Archie and Reddy. So Elephant and Piggy, Narwhal and Jelly, Frog and Toad, and now Archie and Reddy. These 2 are the next perfect pairing in a long line of animal duos. And they're not only best friends, but they're also cousins. In our first story, I Really Dig Pizza, Archie stumbles upon a gift-wrapped cheesy treat in the forest and decides the best thing to do is bury it for dinner later. Next slide, please. But then Reddy comes along trying to solve the mystery of a suspicious pile of dirt. Will Archie attempt to derail her investigation? Well, yeah, but is he going to eventually fess up and share the pizza with his cousin? That's a real mystery you'll have to read about and uncover. And then lastly, Chatty, Cookie, and Bashful Broccoli are best buddies, even if they're as different as peanut butter and cheese. Elementary school can be tough, but as long as they have each other, there's nothing they can't handle. And then you can go to the next slide. But what happens when Cool Cucumber and his loyal followers put Cookies and Broccoli's coolness to the test? And Cookie's hokey pokey dance does not impress. And Broccoli's cool math trick propels him to be the new leader of the cool crowd. Can their friendship withstand this popularity contest? And then that is going to be it for all of our titles. Thanks so much for being here with us, and we hope that you've loved these book selections as much as we do. We also have resources on our website, such as book lists, discussion guides, author videos, story time, activities, and more. Just go to penguinclassroom.com, or you can reach out to us at any of the social media handles listed here. And we hope you stay safe and healthy until we can see you again.
Thank you so much, Danielle, and a huge thank you to all of today's wonderful panelists. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit www.booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. If you're not yet a subscriber, you can pair the print reading experience with the convenience of online access at booklistonline.com and lock in print, online, digital, and archive access by taking advantage of this special webinar offer to get Booklist for only $75. Patron-friendly, librarian-approved, and free with a Booklist subscription, Booklist Reader, Booklist's new digital-only magazine highlighting diverse readers' advisory recommendations for all ages, launches September 7th. To see and share the latest issue, visit booklistonline.com/reader-issues. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, and one more huge thank you to our panelists and our sponsors, Albert Whitman, Second Story Press, Honest History, Once Upon a Dance, and Penguin Young Readers. This concludes today's webinar. We'll see you next time.